You are listening to Think Theory Radio. Hello and welcome to Think Theory Radio, the show that brings you topics outside the mainstream realm of thought and ideas to make you think. And I'm your host, Damian Perdue, your guide on this metaphysical ride of audio delights. And of course, I'm joined by Paulie C.
Yo.
Hello there.
Hi. I was reading, it was like Paulie C.
Yeah.
It's like really, really quiet.
Also, my headphones, I was in mono and then it just popped in stereo. Right?
See, I'm still in mono here. That's kind of crazy. I gotta wait and jiggle the cord a little bit, and that puts you in stereo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know the old tricks. Mm-hmm. Tricks of the trade.
Didn't work.
No.
Oh, no.
Now you messed up mine. No, I'm just kidding. How did that happen?
Falling apart here. You know, I talked to you for like the last half hour, and not once did we talk about what is on tap for today.
Today is somewhat in the weird science vein.
Well,
but
we can't do weird science though, because that was last week. Yeah.
Yes, but this is strange government experiments.
Okay,
we've done it before, but it's been a while since we've talked about some of these weird things.
I feel like strange government experiments come up on most Think Theory Radio episodes.
Yeah, exactly right. Of course, a lot of it is from DARPA.
Yep. Yeah.
The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency.
For those playing at home.
Yes. Which is a fascinating government agency because it's kind of like untouchable. And they also have like unlimited money.
Aren't most government agencies and government affiliated people untouchable?
Yeah, but I feel like there's some where, just like, let's say the IRS, like, you have that kind of vibe, but at the same time, they're like totally underfunded and they're just overworked. And where DARPA, they're just like handed billions of dollars to like do whatever they want. And they work with, really, advanced scientists, but also like crazy crackpots.
Yeah, I think just because the different departments, though, like the IRS is boring. It's just basically pushing paper. It's an office. Yeah, you're finding money, trying to figure out what's going on with money. But like ultimately, how much money is the IRS really recovering? Is it?
For sure.
It's a necessary entity in the bureaucracy, but is it really serving? Some sort of great, justice for our treasury. Yeah. Whereas DARPA gets to play with probably cool toys. And
they do all
gets to do all these extreme things and just, playing with the government's money to discover new ways to probably take over and kill things.
Yeah. Amongst other things. Yeah. Actually, like the internet basically comes from DARPA. They created ARPANET back in the, 60s. GPS, modern GPS, comes from DARPA.
Okay.
And also, essentially Google kind of comes from DARPA. Like Google search, Google Maps was developed by DARPA.
Do they play with anything explosive? It just sounds like they just come up with different they ways of communications. I don't know.
They do a lot of weird military stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I looked at their website. You can go to their website. It's darpa.mil, M-I-L.
You're on a list somewhere. Are you on it right now?
I'm on it right now.
Ah, no, the station's marked.
You can hear those black helicopters. They're landing on the roof. I mean, they made their own website. They even have podcasts. You could listen to a DARPA podcast. We should just play that for the whole
DARPA
show.
Podcast.
But yeah, I was looking at some of the stuff. They're doing a lot of stuff with AI and different things. But I was reading some of the projects and I didn't understand what it was talking about. Let's see. I mean, they're trying to harness biology as technology.
That was where my mind went first. I was thinking, how to make the dolphins into energy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What's funny is you said dolphins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was, while I was looking up these different experiments, I found a story about Iran had actually bought a bunch of militarily trained dolphins from Russia. Russia had trained all these dolphins to attack naval ships.
Doesn't that sound like something out of a James Bond movie or something? But no, this is reality, and it's just...
I mean, and it's...
Are these legit though?
Yeah.
They're like, I mean,
well, we don't know what this was. I want to say it was back in the 90s. So we don't know what happened to those dolphins, or if they succeeded, or they just swam away.
Since
like,
we don't know the story, I bet you it's like they probably couldn't swim in what is it? The Red Sea that's right next to there. What's right by Iran?
What sea is that?
Pull up my my map here. Yeah, my terrible geography. But yeah, I'm guessing it's probably going to be something crazy like that, where it's like, oh no, they just weren't suited for that environment.
Could be that, or I don't really know how they were supposed to attack naval ships, being they're just fleshy creatures, unless you attach like a bomb to them. In which case, if they did hit the side of a naval ship, it's just going to blow up. So
Persian Gulf or the Caspian Sea, or the Caspian Sea.
Should have known that. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. And then I do remember I don't know if they were still up there, but for a while they were doing research with dolphins in space on the International Space Station. But I'm not sure if those experiments are still ongoing, just trying to figure out how animals are affected in space. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Let's send dolphins to space. But
how will they transport them? Is it just like they're not going to swim around? They're just going to be like in a little tiny capsule of water?
They had them up there already.
Like,
and there was just
they have a big enough tank to swim around.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I guess.
I don't think it was a huge.
You would have to like anchor the water somehow, right? Like.
You would think. Let's see if I can find it.
Okay. Let me walk through this here. Let me try and think this out here. A dolphin needs water in order to breathe, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it can be out of the water, but it needs to be in the water, and it's hard to maintain water in zero gravity. So how do they keep all of the, like, it must be in some sort of like, capsule where it can't really move around too much, I would think.
Let's see. I keep finding the one about the dolphins, the LSD.
This is probably not what you wanted to talk about on your show today. I
mean, I could talk about dolphins in space all day.
You thought it was going to be strange government experiments, but it's dolphins in space.
I mean, if they did send dolphins to space, it's a pretty strange government experiment. And I know they were trying to like attach lasers to them to see if they were trying to turn their like sonic
the sonar or whatever,
the sonar waves into some kind of like laser weapon.
Yeah.
So that's a
weird trying to weaponize the dolphins.
Yeah. I mean, and you could have either dolphins in space, or you could have plant-eating robots. What do you think about that one?
That sounds like a Think Theory radio topic, if I've ever heard. Plant-eating robots.
So
why would robots need to eat plants?
Well, this is a DARPA project. It's called the Energy Autonomous Tactical Robot Program.
Okay.
And it sought to create robots that could feed off of plants just like animals do. It's called EATR, the acronym, Energy Autonomous Tactical Robot, of course, would have enabled robots to remain in surveillance or defensive positions without resupplying more than humans or robots with limited power sources. Basically, it's like for surveillance, so they can, instead of having to go re-oil the robots, I guess, they just consume the plant matter.
That's like what's going to end up happening is when the robots take over, they're going to, we're going to make sure there's no human life. We're going to get rid of the plants, too.
Well, according to Cyclone Power Technology CEO Harry Scholl, said, "We completely understand the public's concern about futuristic robots feeding on the human population, but that is not our mission," he said.
They're going to be omnivores. I know it. The robots.
And it said that EATR would be able to travel 100 miles for every 150 pounds of biomass consumed. So I don't know how energy efficient that is. I'm not sure what 150 pounds of biomass would equate out in the wild, like if it's plant matter and they're, for 100 miles. I don't know. Houses that repair themselves.
Okay.
Would be kind of cool.
In which way? Like what?
Well, this is, of course, it's all like, it always starts off for military stuff.
Yeah.
So this says, you imagine soldiers fashioning buildings and fortifications out of lightweight scaffolds instead of plywood, 2x4s, and heavy sandbags. Then those scaffolds quickly begin to fill in with durable material And when the material is damaged, it grows right back to where it was.
Okay.
And this was called DARPA. This was DARPA's Engineering Living Materials Program. And it was to create building materials that can be grown where needed and repair themselves when damaged. As researchers make progress with 3D printed organs and tissues, DARPA hopes to use similar technologies to create hybrid materials that can shape and support the growth of engineered cells. A quote from project manager Justin Gallivan said, "Instead of shipping finished materials, we can ship precursors and rapidly grow them on site using local resources. And since the materials will be alive, they will be able to respond to changes in their environment and heal themselves in response to damage." And that's interesting, you know, I guess not funny, but so you have this concept of a living material or being able to, you know, have houses that repair themselves and quickly kind of build on their own, it seems. But instead of saying, hey, here's a great way we can house like homeless people or people in third world countries that need housing they won't have to worry about repairing because they don't have money. No, we're going to do this for soldiers so that they can constantly build, you know, places they can store their weapons.
You know, for when you really need it.
Yeah. But also, like, just digging around and looking for different weird experiments and stuff. I did also find, like, evil medical experiments from history. A couple lists of those, which are weird. One was separating triplets. It says in the 60s and 70s, clinical psychologists led by Peter Neubauer ran a secret experiment in which they separated twins and triplets from each other and adopted them out as singlets. The experiment, said to have been partly funded by the National Institute of Mental Health, came to light when 3 identical triplet brothers accidentally found each other in 1980. They had no idea that they had other siblings. David Kellman, one of the triplets, felt anger towards the experiment. "We were robbed of 20 years together," said Kellman in the Orlando Sentinel article.
I think I remember reading about this. Yeah.
His brother, Edward Gallen, died by suicide in 1995 at his home in Maplewood, New Jersey. The child psychiatrists who headed up the study, Peter Neubauer and Viola Bernard, showed no remorse. According to...
Well, it's very, matter of fact. It's for science, you know? Can't get emotionally attached to your...
Why would a mad scientist show remorse?
Yeah, you can't show emotion towards your
subjects, right. Mm-hmm.
It's going to damage the experiment.
Treating us like lab rats.
that would damage the experiment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not the emotional trauma inflicted upon the subject.
They even went as far as said, like you said, that they were doing something good for the kids, separating them so they could develop their individual personalities. And I guess Neubauer, as for what Neubauer learned from this experiment, who knows what they actually learned from it? There's really nothing.
So we need the sound clip from, sorry to spoil Burn After Reading for anyone that hasn't seen it, but at the end when J.K. Simmons is like, well, did we learn anything? Nope.
Nope. And you got to wonder, too, that's just the ones that found out about each other. Like how many others were there?
Yeah.
We don't know. I doubt they would ever admit to how many kids that they separated. It's just a strange thing. And who signed off on that?
But you think that's... You think it's more than just the triplets? Yeah, no, because I thought I was reading something where it was like kind of a situation where like they just couldn't raise them, and it's like, you're having triplets.
Yeah.
You know?
That's so weird. But it just said that this is the triplets that accidentally found each other. But in the beginning of the article, it says that in the 60s and 70s, the secret experiment in which they separated twins and triplets. So that implies that there were others.
They're separating children.
There are others. They're trying to keep us separated, man, so we don't unify. But I have more on the crazy lists of creepy science experiments and some interesting ones that might benefit humanity. If you want to give us a call, hit us up at 773-763-9278. That's 773-763-WCPT, and we'll be back with more Think Theory Radio. Welcome back to Think Theory Radio. This is Damien, and today we're talking about some weird government experiments.
Weird government.
I gotta stop using weird because it's a strange government
Spooky.
experiment. Spooky,
Creepy. There you go. Creepy government experience.
Mm-hmm. But some of them aren't necessarily creepy. They're kind of cool.
Bizarre.
Bizarre is a good one.
Your Think Theory Radio pitch meeting for what to name this episode.
And maybe subsequent episodes. It could be
Yeah, maybe this could start a trend.
Mm-hmm. We just have to hope that the government keeps doing experiments on people so we can talk about them.
Oh, man, you think they'll stop?
Yeah.
Did you hear anything?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, too, when you read, like, especially if you look in the not-so-distant past and how many different medical, like, really messed up medical experiments they did on humans. Like, just say the Tuskegee experiment, you know what I mean, where they, like, gave black men with syphilis a placebo just to see how syphilis affects them. All the time they think they're being cured. There's a number of them. Mm-hmm. But every time the government comes out with it, they always say, "Well, we don't do that anymore."
Yeah.
And then it's like, 20 years later you find out about something. Oh, yeah, but we don't do that anymore. What I was reading too is that a lot of it now, which is really disturbing as well, is that because, Americans have found out about how many, experiments they've done on Americans, that they've switched to doing them in foreign countries. And like they're over there, like experimenting on foreign citizens, without their knowledge. So,
yeah,
which doesn't surprise me. But then there is stuff like the Boston Dynamics robot dog. Mm-hmm. That was also a DARPA project.
Were they any of the other Boston Dynamics stuff?
I'm sure. I believe that Boston Dynamics was like.
And why the dog?
Was heavily funded by DARPA. The dog, well, for security. I mean, they obviously want to use that for police and other kind of.
I gotcha. Okay.
Military stuff. And maybe there's some kind of like fear thing, because a lot of people kind of have fear of dog, and if you see like a robot dog coming after you, you might be a little bit. Although I don't know, if I saw a robot humanoid, I'd be kind of freaked out too.
Robot anything,
right? But what about cyborg insects?
Why not?
DARPA has done research into insect sentinels.
That's scary.
Yeah.
But wasn't there a whole thing of like there already kind of is that, like the little there's like little like fly drone spy drones, little flies or whatever, right?
Supposedly, yeah. And
or am I making that up? Is that from a movie?
I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure that's.
Well, it's kind of one of those that it was in a movie, but it's also
and then I heard the birds, man.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is like in the 80s they were working on bird drones, like to spy in other countries.
Yeah.
So it's funny when you think about some of the, we're like, oh, the wild conspiracies, but how they kind of go into the actual stuff that has actually happened. But the cyborg insects says it was looking for researchers who would find a way to implant technology into an insect's body while in its pupa, thus turning it into a cyborg. So this is like the other ones were more like a fly with some kind of, camera attached to it. Mm-hmm. But this is more like creating a cyborg insect from birth or from the
what part
larva.
of it was cyborg?
So it says successful entrants had to deliver the insect to within 5 meters of a target using either remote control or GPS, and the results are
so it can like guide it.
Yeah, it says. It's unclear if DARPA had ever learned anything useful from the initiative, unfortunately. And indeed, one researcher told New Scientist he didn't think cyborg insects would ever become fully fledged surveillance instruments, as it's impossible to create a power pack that will run the electronics for a long enough time without also being too heavy for the insect to move while wearing it. And then it said 13 years later, another call was put out involving insects, because this was in 2006 that started, so 13 years later. 2019, this time the intention was creating conscious robots by mapping the creature's brains. The agency published a brief for Artificial Intelligence Exploration, AIE, proposals involving insects, explaining that their brains could solve the problem of how much energy and time it takes to train increasingly complex AI systems. It also touched on the fact these animals have subjective experiences and that researching this particular aspect of insect brains could lead to capability of inference, prediction, generalization, and abstraction of problems in systematic or entirely new ways in order to find solutions to compelling problems. So that's part of a project called U-Brain, I think it is. It's like a lowercase u with the line on the left side. I don't know what that...
Oh, gosh, okay.
That's beyond my grammatical expertise.
One of those European vowels, is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, or it's I don't really know what that is. It's probably, it could be mathematical, maybe. If anybody knows, give us a call.
Wait, what? It's a U with a line going down, like on
the left side,
unfinished P, right? Like, So is that mu?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might be the Greek alphabetical letter mu. I could be wrong. I'd have to see it. I don't feel like jumping over the table here.
All right. Well, what about let's get back into some creepy stuff. Although cybernetic insects is kind of creepy. But what about a scientist letting insects live inside her?
Okay.
It says a researcher in Madagascar was so interested in sand flea development that she let one of the bugs live inside her foot for 2 months. The sand flea, also known as a chigger flea, is pretty gross. It burrows permanently into the skin of a warm-blooded host like a human, where it swells, defecates, and produces eggs before dying 4 to 6 weeks later, still embedded in the skin. Her intimate observations paid off, unlike a lot of the DARPA ones, I guess. She figured out that the parasites most likely have sex when the females are already inside their hosts. That's really you're really going the extra mile for your scientific experiment to inject that. Oh, speaking of injection, so this was not a scientist. This was an amateur. And folks, please do not try this at home. As much as I like magic mushrooms, a man self-injects mushrooms that grew in his blood, causing organ failure.
Say that line again, please.
Man self-injects mushrooms that grew in blood, causing organ failure.
Oh, wow.
A 30-year-old man with bipolar disorder injected himself with magic mushrooms.
Oh, wow. Like he thought mushrooms that grew in like a total biohazard. Why?
He basically, according to a case report in the Journal of Academy of Consultation Liaison Psychiatry, the 30-year-old man's family brought him to a Nebraska emergency room after they noticed he seemed confused. The man had bipolar disorder type 1, the doctors who wrote the case study learned, and he hadn't been taking his medications, so had been going through manic and depressive episodes. During recent episodes related to his bipolar disorder, he researched how he could decrease his opioid use at home using psychedelic mushrooms. But I guess instead of thinking about just ingesting them the normal way, he decided to crush them down and put them in a syringe and inject them into his blood.
That's not wise.
Yeah. It said the man in the case study boiled the mushrooms in water, filtered the liquid through a cotton swab, and then injected the substance into his bloodstream. A couple of days later, he started to become overly tired, vomited blood, and developed jaundice, diarrhea, and nausea. And his family, found him and took him to the hospital. When the doctors met the man, he couldn't give a coherent interview. And after tests, they found he had a liver injury, his kidneys weren't functioning properly, and he started to go into organ failure. The blood sample revealed something even more shocking.
Dun, dun, dun.
The mushrooms, which thrive in dark places, had begun to grow in the man's bloodstream.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were saying at first. But that's kind of where I was thinking it was going. So it's like, they're mushrooms.
Yeah.
Why would he put them in his bloodstream?
I don't know. Well, it did say he suffered from bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
I'm sure he had a lot of mental problems, but I guess he was thinking that if the normal ingestion, you're taking a certain amount, and he was probably looking for such an extreme fix to his problem that he thought, well, if I just inject it,
if I mainline mushrooms,
right, it'll just cure me. Like, he was looking to rid himself of his opioid addiction.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, I feel like,
I feel like it might have happened. It probably worked though, because the organ failure probably led to a hospital stint, which led to probably a strict diet of like medication and watching his health for a little while, to the point where by the time he was free to do opioids if he wanted to, the cravings had subsided enough where he could probably make a wise decision of sobriety for himself.
I'd hope so. It said they kept him in the hospital for 22 days and gave him 2 antibiotics and 1 antifungal treatment, and then which he was prescribed to continue taking for the long term after he left the hospital. So he did survive, which is amazing. He had to be put on a ventilator
with blood mushrooms growing inside of his bloodstream, in his veins.
Oh man, that's just, yeah. I mean, so I don't know, folks. If you're attempting to do any kind of self-medicating, you can at least Google a little bit.
The heart was pumping like blood mushrooms through it. Was that?
Yeah. What if they just started growing out of out of your skin? You just start seeing mushrooms pop out.
It just seems like, what if you turn into you're a little kid and it's like, don't eat the watermelon seed, otherwise a watermelon's going to grow inside of you. So what if it's like literally mushrooms are growing inside of you?
Now it would be cool though if they just like grew, like they didn't affect you bad, like health wise, and they just grew out of your skin, and then you could just pluck them and eat them.
Self-growing. You. I don't know.
No, yeah. I don't think it works that way.
Certain people that would really go for that, I think.
Yeah, like, hey man, just grow them in my body.
Yeah. I haven't washed in weeks, man. The mushrooms are great. Hey, this dish is great. What's on this?
Another interesting experiment was trying to pinpoint where fear lives in the brain.
Pinpoint? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It says researchers
I'd imagine it's probably like under a bed in your mind or something.
It's in the dark closet of your brain.
Creepy spot, right?
Mm-hmm. It's
fear
in the
is always
cave. What is the...
the cave?
Yeah, is it Plato's cave? Or it's the whole like psychological thing where you're like trapped in a cave.
I got you. Mentally, yeah. Okay.
You gotta like go through your own shadows.
Oh yeah. So where is it?
Let's find out. It says they tried to answer the first question in 2011 when they tested a human patient known anonymously as SM, who did not experience fear. SM had lesions on her amygdala, a part of the brain thought to be key to our experience of fear. They exposed her to snakes and spiders, took her to a haunted house, and had her watch scary movies. She showed and felt no fear. That settles it. The researchers thought that the amygdala is key to the human fear response. Then, in 2013, some of the same researchers tested SM again. This time, they had her inhale CO2, an experience that causes a feeling of asphyxiation. SM didn't stay calm. Instead, she had a panic attack, just like the other subjects in the experience.
Sounds about right.
Look at this scary clown. No, I'm not scared. We're going to cut off your air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to pump CO2 back into you.
Yeah. Instead, she had a panic attack. Both of whom had damaged the amygdala. The findings made it clear that the amygdala isn't the only part of the brain that processes fear, and that fear really is a universal emotion. So it just resides in all parts of the brain.
I would think. There's got to be some sort of quirk, though, where, like, you don't experience fear, though. There's got to be, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the abnormal human being that's like, no, I just don't have that sort of fear. It's like they don't jump when someone, someone scares them or, like, startles them or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe crows know.
Why do crows know?
Well,
teasing a story here. Yeah.
Or what do crows and Dick Cheney have in common?
Are you teasing a story?
Yes.
Crows? Yeah. Okay.
And I'll say it real quick. It's real quick before we go to break.
Okay, well, fun fact about crows.
Researchers in Seattle ran an interesting experiment on crows. They designated a caveman mask as dangerous and Dick Cheney mask as neutral. I would have did the other way around. They wore the dangerous mask to net and capture crows and wore Cheney when they felt like acting like the good guy.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about caveman compared to Cheney, Cheney looks kind of normal, right?
Cheney looks kind of
I know,
evil.
Cheney looks evil, but I mean, like, there was no third mask. There was no, like, Tom Cruise mask,
Right,
you
there
know?
was no the control mask.
Or, like, you know, like the good-looking mask. You know, like, if the best you can do between caveman and Dick Cheney wears a suit, at least.
I don't trust suits. Suits are scary,
and,
man.
And think of how light he looks now compared to Donald Trump's. Like,
well, I mean, yeah. I guess Rumsfeld's a little more scary looking.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so that might be the challenge there.
Yeah, but it basically was to test out the theory that crows don't forget a face and how they react to threats or friends. And basically said up to 2/3 of the birds in the area would become upset when they saw the dangerous mask, which was the caveman, start scolding, mobbing, and dive bombing the wearer, no matter who they were.
But if it was the Dick Cheney mask, they would
leave him alone. Yeah.
Okay. Which is probably like Cheney controls the crows.
Yes.
Maybe
Cheney controls the
something to look into.
Crow drones.
Yeah, something to look into. The crow. The birds aren't real, man.
Dick Cheney controls them all. So all right.
Maybe every conspirator has a species of bird that they each get.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break.
Something to think about.
When we come back on Think Theory Radio. Welcome back to Think Theory Radio. Today we're talking about crazy, strange, bizarre experiments from government and also just obviously amateur people that like to inject mushrooms and weird mad scientists. There's always some mad scientists out there trying to do creepy stuff. I did when I was looking up these experiments, I found an article. Now this is super fringy and probably most likely not true, but I find it fascinating, and the fact that there's actually a whole book about it is even more intriguing. A DARPA, and it involves DARPA.
Goes back to DARPA.
And the CIA, so,
all right.
Extra black helicopters circling the station. DARPA CIA whistleblower confirms future U.S. presidents pre-identified in 1971 by top secret time travel unit. And it's a book called the Chronarchy, I guess is how you. Okay. Yeah, it's a neologism. Okay. I've never heard that word. Neologism, like theology, I guess, like a neo-theology. Okay. I'm assuming. I don't really know. That signifies those who ruled through time or the manipulation of it. And it says this book publishes important evidence-based revelations, including a sworn affidavit by a DARPA CIA whistleblower, member of Project Pegasus, about the U.S. government's top-secret quantum access time travel program in the 1960s to 1980s. In his evidence as published in the book, former U.S. chrononaut Andrew D. Basiago, a time traveler for the U.S. government from the late 1960s until the early 1980s, confirms that U.S. presidents George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and Joseph Robinette Biden. Did you know that was his middle name?
Robinette?
That's what it says here.
I think I did not know that.
See? This time traveler knows everything.
Does that replace Milhouse's weirdest middle name by president ever? Robinette?
Yes, I think so. They were pre-identified by U.S. government top secret time travel as future U.S. presidents in 1971 and groomed for their future positions by DARPA CIA in secret meetings. U.S. chrononaut, I like that name, or the title, chrononaut.
Chrononaut, yeah.
I guess he's an astronaut of the time chronology.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Chrononaut Basiago states he personally witnessed a number of these time travel briefings and grooming sessions of U.S. presidents by DARPA CIA personnel as a member of Project Pegasus. Now retired from U.S. government service, former U.S. chrononaut is an attorney, member of Washington State Bar and U.S. District Court for the state of Washington. So he's somewhat prominent.
Man, why would a president need to know about time travel, right?
Well, no, they were time traveling to pre-identify the presidents and then groom them to be the presidents.
Yeah, to be the president. Okay, okay. I gotcha.
Yep.
All of them? You're saying as far back as this?
As far back as it says the H.W. Bush. It doesn't go before that.
It doesn't go Reagan. That's the fact. I guess
that is weird.
I think the story is kind of known how Reagan was more or less groomed to be a leader, right? I think everyone kind of sees it, like the General Electric route and all that. Yeah. Okay. So.
Well, and then Vice President Bush was head of the CIA, so there's that tie-in. And, but yeah, it says, in addition, he served, the chrononaut Basiago says he served as the former general counsel to the New York City Environmental Protection Administration and former director of the 1977 Jimmy Carter White House Extraterrestrial Communication Study, a former non-government organization delegate to the United Nations. Yeah, so I don't know. It's like I said, it's very fringy, it's kind of crazy, but
you want to blindly take a couple calls?
Let's see if they're time travelers. Let's go to the 630 area code. Hello from the 630. Who am I speaking with?
Hey, you're speaking with Dan. So I've got a question. Why did they stop time traveling in 1980? Did they know everything they needed to know forever?
I guess. I mean, well, you figure if you time traveled for like a good 20 years.
I think that's just when society hit peak perfection, right?
Well, if you time travel for 20 years, you could pretty much see everything.
They hadn't sold out yet, and
yeah, right.
Sting was still a legit musician. Sorry.
What?
So, if we go to Joe Robinette. By the way, I did know his middle name was Rob. It's a family name, I think.
Okay,
that sounds right.
Like Milhouse. Yeah, Milhouse is awesome. I just got to say,
everything's turning up Milhouse.
Time traveling. I mean, just think about Biff in Back to the Future. You could clean up on the 69 Cubs or whoever that next team would be. You know what I'm saying? 69 Mets, actually, you clean up on. But you get my drift. It's like, if you could time travel, why would you ever stop?
For sure. But, it's kind of like what you never really know if they actually stopped. I mean, it's kind of the same thing with, you had Project Blue Book, which was a UFO program that they said they stopped, and then it came out recently that no, they continued it on under a different name.
Right, I forgot that part of the tin hat.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff. Like when they say they stopped, they didn't really stop. I love the conspiracy theories. Honestly, I'm gonna say, and I don't want to. That JFK Jr. is going to be vice president. That I love that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was.
I don't want to go political, but some of the stuff coming out of there, you're like, Jewish space lasers and what? I love the show. I love the conspiracy theory shows, maybe more than anything. But yeah, what was I thinking? Of course, they didn't stop time traveling. They're probably coursing through my veins in tiny little undersea, flying submarines, like in Incredible Voyage or whatever that was.
Yeah, or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah, I mean, I really should stop before they set off the charges in my brain. So
yeah, you got to watch out. They got the black helicopter circling the station right now, so watch out, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. But I got to tell you, thank you so much for the entertainment, and you blow my mind about at one point where I'm like, I just got to go home now, and it's the end of my day. I'm working retail, and then you remind me that the universe is way bigger than that guy that came in 3 minutes before we closed to do a 45-minute transaction. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
Thank you.
That's exactly what I want to do, and I'm glad that it worked.
You do. I wish that the economics of the thing was you'd have a couple shows a week and they'd be 2 hours each. But boy, I don't know how you fill it with that much crazy stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Technology stuff.
I would like the challenge though. So let the station powers know. Think they're ready 2 times a week, 2 hours. I mean, but it would be kind of crazy. But I would love the challenge. I would relish the challenge to fill 2 hours or 4 hours with craziness.
I appreciate all you do. You're way better than old Uncle Lair and Tommy. Well, Tommy. So thank you.
Wow, that's high praise.
All right, thanks, man.
Know.
Well, thanks,
You
Dan.
bet. Have a great one.
You too.
Bye.
All right. Let's take another mystery caller. 847. Who am I speaking with?
This is Tom and Elgin.
Hey, what's
Tom
up,
and
Tom?
Elgin.
I've been practicing on drone, working on my Monarch Fireflies, but I might have missed. It's Day of the Dolphin. George C. Scott. The dolphins were putting mines on boats, and one got errant. That was that one movie you were talking about earlier.
Okay.
But also, that guy you're talking about, the Chrononaut.
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta go on YouTube and see some of his stuff. It's like he's giving these like little speeches, and you hear the clapping, and there's like 3 claps, and he's like he claims that he was in. There's a picture from the Civil War. That was me. They sent me back. They picked me because, and he also claims that he was on Mars with Barack Obama.
Oh, I think, okay, so that's the same guy. I do remember kind of reading about that.
Yeah, that guy is woohoo, and he's a lawyer.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, howdy.
I know. I mean, it's interesting on a couple of different ways. Obviously, just the craziness of it, but then also like the who he is. He's an attorney, member of Washington State Bar, he's U.S. District Court for the City of Washington. He worked for Jimmy Carter. Like, he's not just some schmuck off the street. Like, he has some credentials.
That concerns me about sometimes.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of like what I was saying, like with DARPA, they have so much money and they're trying to do so many different experimental things and not that he was working for DARPA, but it does mention DARPA in this article. They can hire anybody, whether they're an established prominent scientist or it's some crazy guy who thinks they can, puncture through different dimensions.
I maybe he bumped his head one day and then went, oh, wait a second.
Or maybe he injected himself with magic mushrooms and then he...
Ooh. Well, don't get me tempted.
Yeah, don't do that.
No. Say no. Blowfish.
Yes. There you go.
All right, love the show, and once again, I reiterate, you should have more than an hour. You should have 2, 3, 4. Like I said, you guys are great, and I love what you do. You delve into deep stuff, and make people go,
Well, thank you.
And that's the important thing. You got to make people go, I always thought about this, but
Mm-hmm.
and makes them kind of go, I'll open a book.
Exactly. I mean, and that's even kind of even the story with the Chrononaut. Even though it sounds just deranged and crazy, it can kind of make you think of something else. Like, what is the possibility of time travel? You know what I mean? It just kind of opens the mind.
And that James Webb
Space Telescope.
What we're seeing now, yeah.
Oh, amazing!
What we're seeing now. Could you imagine if they look at a star that was 1 million years ago and go, wait a second, there's a planet there, and there's a structure that's on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh crap! There was a civilization there 1 million years ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
It's going to blow everyone's mind.
I can't wait.
And that's what you do. You blow everyone's mind.
Well, thank you.
You open their mind and look at things. So, God bless you. Take care. I love you.
All right, you too. Thank you so much.
Radio back on.
All right, have a great night. All right, yeah.
Things that make you go,
Yeah, things that make you go home. That was a hit. I know, it's funny, as soon as he said that, I thought that, I was like, yeah.
I was trying to think who it was. Like, I was like, Salt and Pepper. I was like, no, CNC Music Factory. I know that, yeah.
Let's see, can we fit in one or two
you gotta do it quick,
more? Yeah. What about Frankenmouse?
Frankenmouse. They like assembled different parts of mice and rodents and made a super.
Creatively dubbed Ear Mouse, this little guy was originally held up as evidence that genetic engineering had gone too far.
Yeah, wait. Was that the mouse that they grew an ear on? That one? The first guy?
He's the product
like the Trailblazer back in the day, right?
Ear Mouse created a molded sterile, biodegradable mesh into the shape of a human ear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, what, 2003?
It doesn't say the year on here, but I think you're
maybe
right.
98? Like, no, because that was the Dolly the Sheep. It was somewhere around there. Somewhere by Dolly the Sheep, they cloned an ear on a rat at some point.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Yeah, sorry, I ruined it. I ruined Think Theory Radio's, like...
That's it, show's over. No, just joking. Let's see, real quick. Trying to find a good one to finish. Okay, here we go. This one's a good one to finish with. Mechanical elephants. In the 1960s, DARPA began researching vehicles that would enable troops and equipment to move more freely in the dense terrain of Vietnam. Following the footsteps of Hannibal before them, DARPA researchers decided that elephants could be the right tool for the job. They began one of the most infamous projects in DARPA history, the quest for a mechanical elephant. The end result would be capable of transporting heavy loads with servo-actuated legs. When the director of DARPA heard of the project, he immediately shut it down, hoping that Congress wouldn't hear of it and cut the agency's funding, according to New Scientist. So they say they shut it down.
Yeah.
You know, come on. We know those mechanical elephants are out there stomping around in the Middle East somewhere.
Mechanical elephants? Do you think they blend in, or is there a whole herd of them on their own?
It depends. If they use that like fleshy, that new robotic flesh that you can put on and make them actually look like real elephants, you never know. And then don't give elephant robots AI. Then we're all doomed.
Oh,
just
no.
Elephants just stomping around.
An elephant AI never forgets.
Yes. All right. Thanks for everybody for listening, and thanks to our callers. We'll be back again next Saturday and every Saturday, 6 to 7 p.m. right here on WCPT 820 Think Theory Radio.
Wasn't I the one who took your virginity? The look on her face, red soul and gloom, she said.